Hello, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. My husband will be here in a moment. Anyway, welcome to Cornerstone. And let's see who's here this morning. Let me put my banner up here so everybody will know who we are. Oh my gosh, so they'll know. We are the Sawyers, and this is Cornerstone. Hope you guys are surviving the heat. If you're here in the Carolinas, well, it's hot everywhere. And wouldn't you know it, our ice maker went out this week. And yesterday afternoon, our upstairs air conditioner, which is new, is not working to peak performance. So we've got the text coming out this afternoon. Anywho, we won't worry about all of that. We're just going to go with the flow and see how things turn out. Isn't that right? It's always working in our favor. Let's see who's here. Let me see who's here. Hey, Pastor Norman. Pastor Norman is the first one here this morning. Boy, you must be hungry. You must be hungry. And then there's Kim. Hey, Kim, Sandra, Dee Dee, and George. James Kessler is here. Yeah. Hey, Burn. And there's Brother Blue and the family. And there's Sister Phyllis and Edward. Jill. Hey, KK. How are you and James doing? Let us know when James is supposed to have his procedure, sweetie. Let us know. And Brand's here. And John Greason is in the house. Wow. I'm glad you guys are here. Glad you're here. Let's see. I don't even have all my stuff put up here. So we've been kind of doing everything this morning. But I did get a walk-in. And all of that. Good morning, Ollie and Yo. Good morning. So good talking to you guys on Thursday night. Anyway, we're glad you're here. You all right today?
Yep. How you doing?
I need you to slide in just a little bit. Can you? That was just a real little bit. That was a real little bit. Let's see if I can get you in here. So I gotta get you in here, young man. Okay, that's better. All right. You doing okay?
Doing okay.
You walked a little bit this morning, didn't you?
Yeah, a little bit.
Took baby girl for me, and I had a chance to walk without her. It was really nice walking without
That was
baby
relief,
girl.
wasn't
Yeah, it was. It was very nice walking without her. But I missed my sidekick. She's my girl. Hey, Virginia, I'm glad you're here. Okay. I had a kind of an epiphany this morning.
Okay.
I was talking to my sweetheart Leslie yesterday, and I was telling her how that, she should love herself and all of this stuff. And then this morning, I came to the realization that we really have to get past loving and hating ourselves, because that's born out of a mental concept. Whether I hate or love myself, it's all a mental concept.
Right.
And so
it is.
The question is, can I live beyond a self-image? Can I live beyond opinions of myself? Without thinking about whether it's good or bad. And
what I like about it is the question was asked and the question is already answered. Not trying to be sarcastic with you, but when I found out awareness of allness with those thoughts or without the thoughts, you are still there. You're that.
Yes.
That's why it's so hard to talk to people about what our subject is because they are everybody's been bewitched or entrenched in a spontaneous false identity that the mind or whatever it is, subconscious, is convinced itself that this is all there is to us. And if we have bad thoughts, somebody used to say to me, there's nobody perfect, nobody but Jesus Christ. Well, then I say, well, if he is the perfection of all things, and we are in him and he's in us, then that potential has already been there and have always been there based on the spark.
Okay. Can you hold this thought? Because I want to
Yeah.
do a meditation and you can kind of simmer in it and marinate in it until I get
Okay.
done. But I want to get us off our hands this morning. If we can get ourselves off our hands, that button's not going to stay. Um, let's do this. Let's do this to forget about, not so much forget, but to lose the self-consciousness that we've lived in. So let's do our meditation affirmation by answering these questions. And you're going to answer these questions. You've answered them before, but your mind doesn't answer these questions. And these questions are not, you cannot answer these questions based on your body or your mind or your feelings. This has to come straight from that you truly are. Good morning, Sister Sharon. Good morning, Keely. Good morning to you guys. Good morning, Leslie. So I want you to do this. We're going to leave our minds outside, just like you would a pair of shoes. Suspend all your thoughts, especially the ones about what you want to happen this morning, what you hope will happen. Let that go. What you plan to do this afternoon, what you did yesterday, all of the concerns that you may have, let those go and sit in this space empty if you can. You can pick it up later. Don't even try to use your imagination. Drop the concerns about whether or not you have awakened or if you're free, or let all of that go right now. And then when you answer these questions, answer them without referring to your body or your mind or your feelings. Okay, are you ready? This that you are, does it have a shape or size? And you can type it in if you want your answer. Does it have a shape or size? Remember, it is not relative to your body at all. This is the very core of that you are. Does it have any weight? Can it be touched? Is it ugly or beautiful? Can it be confused? Does it have fear? Is it happy or sad? Is it excited or depressed? Is it concerned about the future? Is it related to the past? Does it want anything? Is it afraid of failing? Is it concerned with succeeding? Is it imagined or real? Or I'll say it like this. Do you have to imagine it? How old is it? Can it be sick? Can it die? Can you lose it? Can it be bound? Does it get older? Does it ever change? Is it far from you? Is it waiting for the next moment? This is what you are. And you were able to answer without your mind. Your mind couldn't answer that. And it was totally not relative to your body, not relative to your feelings, not relative to your thoughts, none of that. If you were to answer those things from your mind, based on your body being identified as a body, that would have been a self-concept. That would have been the mind's opinion of me. So we didn't allow our mind to define us. We actually got ourselves off our hands when we did that. When you answer those questions, you got yourself off your hands. And you can live in that space without opinions of yourself, without trying to define what you are. And it's just being yourself, going beyond trying to have good self-esteem, trying to have a healthy concept of yourself. It goes beyond that. That's a good thing to do, but it's not necessarily what you are. That's simply an image of yourself. When you try to build a positive image, that's okay, but that positive image is a construction. So you are even beyond the construction. There is really no need to define yourself, whether it be good or bad or healthy or not healthy. It really doesn't matter, because you are beyond all of that. In order to define yourself, you have to form a mental picture, image, an opinion of, and the mind has created an image of the me. So I just wanted to do that to help us get ourselves off our hands this morning. So now we're ready for you.
Now, here's the clue. With everything that you answer to, and most of us, all of us had the NO.
No. Mm-hmm.
That is what caused us to dive into the truth of every physical body, or you say the truth of every person or being on the earth.
Mm-hmm.
You answered the question right there, what God would ask you, or what spirit would intuitively bring to the forefront of your consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
All of those questions that she asked, do you get tired? You said, no. Does spirit get tired? Does it get weak? Does it have cold? The only way that you could say yes is that you finding out that spirit is like a substance you pour into a cup,
Mhm.
and once it touches the cup, it becomes the cup,
Mhm.
even though it looked like it is something in the cup.
Yes, yes, yes.
Now, all day long yesterday, maybe the day before, I had the impression of saying what I saw on a series of children that had special abilities and they went to a special school. In this special school, one of them got a hold of the operation of this power, abilities to do things supernaturally, but she didn't have to go through the channels that everybody else in the school went through.
Mm.
What they tried to do was keep the school private in the city, and they didn't want anybody else to know what they were doing. But it got to be so strong, and different things started happening that they finally had to come to agreement to let the public know that this school that they were in, everybody should be in it. Now, here it
Mm.
is.
Mhm.
What they tried to do was take the power away from this young girl because the elders did not trust that she could handle it because she didn't get it the way others did.
Okay.
I didn't have to receive the Spirit of God the way most of them did in the church. It was not.
You weren't even in a
I
church
wasn't in a
when
church,
it
and it was.
happened, right?
That's right.
Mhm.
And I didn't have any confessions or anything to say like others say they did by
Mhm.
faith. I didn't.
Mhm.
I didn't. It didn't go by faith in my case.
Yeah.
There was no
You
faith
you
involved.
didn't know what faith
Didn't know
was.
what it was. No, I didn't.
Yeah.
So what happened in this series was this girl had these abilities to do things, and it caused a lot of problems with the elders. And she really didn't understand the fullness of it. So what they had rigged up was a way to regress her memory or regress what she knew at the present moment about this ability and her true identity. But there was one young man that did not have the power that was around her, and he liked her.
Mm.
And he said he came up with an idea that she would stand in front of a camera, and he would show her on the film doing all these mighty feats and miraculous things, and have her talk to uh, in the movie in the film, so that if the elders did take away or move her out of that ability, which this is just Hollywood, and what would happen is that eventually he would catch up with her at a certain time and show her the movie, and they did take it away from her. She lost it,
Mm.
but he captured her true identity as an eternal spirit with these potentials in the film, in the camera. So when things got rough, he had her to sit down, and she saw the complete film of her abilities, and all of a sudden they came back, or what they found out really that they never have left.
Okay.
Now, I'm saying this, and it clicked, and the bell went off to me, bing, just like that. I said, now we understand what happens to eternal beings when they come into this forget your identity dimension, forget your true self dimension. You are the only time you have existed was only when you came forth out of your mother's womb, and that's where it started.
That was the belief.
Was the belief.
Yes, yes.
When he showed her ability, she did all kind of feats performances on the film, and she saw what she was already doing. And when she looked at this film over again at that very tragic moment when things was really rough, the power that she had to do the miraculous came up. And she found out that she didn't lose it. And if they had done the same test on the others, they would have lost their power and would not have ever gotten it back unless it was put back in them. So here's my point. You have always been a supernatural, eternal essence being before anybody conditioned you about receiving Jesus as Lord and Savior. I'm basing it on the fact that in the book, the Bible, it tells you and shows you that Jesus knew something about this, and he knew from the beginning that he had the ability to do these things, but it was on hold to an announcement. The announcement was made known to him that he was the Son of God, and these abilities came with. Okay, here it comes. These abilities came with getting his memory back. He got his memory gradually as he went further in the temple. He got his memory back as a little boy. I've read histories and information on archaeological studies where they run across parchments and pieces of information that prove that there was such a man as Jesus on the earth, and he did do those mighty healing and miracles. So what I did was set out over the years. I contacted different evangelists who supposedly had these operations, and then I practiced some of the things that they said they did. They didn't tell me everything about it because they didn't want to let the secret out of how they was doing things behind the scene to make it appear an illusion that they had these powers. But I was going after the real thing because if Jesus was real, and he was, and the way he revealed himself to me in that experience 50 some years ago, and over again, he revealed to me himself, and the rest of it we talk about in these classes. So my point to you is that if you are enlightened, not with just the experience of being able to say, I woke up, you have to go beyond that. And most people, when they find out about enlightenment, they get so wrapped up on the fact that they are one with God, and they don't want to be in church, and religious doesn't have anything to do with it. And the list goes on and on and on as to smother out the ability to do the supernatural. Well, in my case, it was introduced to me from the very beginning of seeing Jesus' heart. And it was introduced to me before I knew anything about it as out of body experience, or we call it astral projection and all that stuff. One of the things we did run into when we got into it, we started talking to people about the miraculous things of Jesus, and the members of her family, my family, said that those things don't happen today. They only happen when Jesus was on earth, and now we go to the doctors. That's true, we do. But at the same time, it does not wipe out the fact that Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So as we got into understanding union with him, we found out that traveling around to different people's homes, every time an event came up, I touched somebody or I was around somebody and I started seeing. The seeing part of me started day one. I would say day one, but I kind of got a feeling, a sensing that it really didn't start on that night when he appeared to me. I can look back and see it was with me when I was making toys, but I didn't understand the operation of it. And I was just doing it without having anything to do with church or religion or any prophetic classes or teaching on these gates and how the power come through. I'm just sharing this with you, the history, and I could go on and tell you, I found out how that switch work inside of us. And people, you are using it right now, but your mind and your ego has convinced you that it's not happening. It just something of a story. It may happen once in a while. So some people sit down to fast and pray to get it. You'll see only one time in the scriptures where Jesus fasted, and that was it. In our day, we got people want to fast every day, every month, every week. But anyway, I'm going to stop here and give some of you guys a chance to say some things, and the wife to speak in her own area of what she wants to say. Got it?
Yeah.
You weren't ready, were you?
Yeah, I was ready, but I'm trying to stay on the same channel you're on. Okay. So, Pastor Norman said total recall, and I guess that's what you're talking about, isn't it? Total recall. Mm-hmm. Now, if I ask you the question, though, how do you know God approves of you? Is it because you have signs, or is God pleased with you? How do you know God's pleased with you? What's the measuring stick that you use? What if you can't perform? And I think
that list you gave this morning was the part of the measuring stick.
Yes, but it had nothing to do with any phenomena. It had nothing to do with how good I've been, how bad I've been. It had nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with me not forming opinions of myself. And because when I form an opinion of myself, I'm the wrong self. I am the wrong self.
So it's the wrong self forming an opinion.
Yes. And so when I try to have a positive self-image, that's a good thing if you can't make the leap.
I tried that too.
But you will wear yourself out trying to have a positive self-image.
Trying the positive side of yourself.
Now, in the Christian religion, of course, we're pastors, so we can speak from this platform. There were so many performing rituals, like praying. The more you prayed, the more spiritual they thought you were.
And
fasting. If you could fast long periods of time, you were more spiritual. If you studied the Bible and you knew it front to back and you could quote it, and you were quick to bring the scriptures up, you were more spiritual. If you spent your time witnessing to everybody, trying to get them saved, becoming the great evangelist, then that they considered you more spiritual. If you ministered to people constantly, I wanted to pray for you, I want to make sure you're okay, they said you're more spiritual then. And then if you let's just say you're the kind of person you wanted to serve everybody, you want to make sure you helped everybody that was homeless, helped everybody that couldn't eat, you went on the journey of serving, then you think that made you more spiritual.
Yeah, more people you ground that had it and prayed for you.
Or maybe you were just a person who could speak well.
Yeah, you
could stand before an audience and turn them on. Right. And work that audience until everybody felt like that. Man, I met God today.
Yeah, and people pat you on the back.
You're more spiritual then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what about the ones who go to church? They're there every service. I mean, every time you open the door, they're there and they're faithful. They're always working in the church. Those were considered more spiritual. But all of those things were simply us trying to build a positive self-image.
Yeah. And
not that they shouldn't be done.
Yeah.
But it's that we have used that as a measuring stick, and that is not the measuring stick.
Now,
that's performance oriented.
Yeah.
We have been performance oriented all our lives.
Now, Miss Kelly, all I did was find out the truth of what happened to me when Jesus appeared to me. And it took years for that to develop into awareness. But one of the most amazing things I find out from one evangelist, he's on the other side now, and he talked details about what we're talking about now. He revealed to me, I talked to him on the phone and saw him in person. A lot of the tent revivalists, I met them before they went on the platform. And I asked some of them, how do you do what you're doing? And one told me, you just do it. Another one I talked to on the phone, he said, "What do you do when you step down from the rostrum and go out into the audience?" And what put me out there in the audience with that, I had a sense, and I wanted to see people healed and come out of wheelchairs. And to this day, I have still have problems watching people like that. But I understand now that there's another way for these manifestations to take place without doing some of the rituals that was taught to us in the brick and mortar.
Without ego.
Without
ego. Without feeling like I'm the woman or the man of God.
Yeah.
You don't have to have that self image.
Yeah.
In order to do it. And that's what I'm saying. For many years, I'm speaking for myself personally. My performance was what guaranteed my response from God.
That's right.
If I didn't perform well, then I had this sense that God wasn't going to respond to me.
It's one of the craziest, weirdest things that happened. When I used to pray for people and put my hand on the side of their head, the ears, if it was deaf or something like that. When I put my hand on the side of this person's head, their neck was kind of short like mine, or maybe some shorter. When I put my hand right there on the head, and sometimes I would hold it at a distance, I actually saw the neck on that person stretch out.
You didn't do it on yourself, though, did you? You can do it on me. I ain't got no neck. I don't have a neck.
You really ain't gonna have one. You keep messing with me.
You'd be a little taller.
You need to go. You need to go upstairs and go to your room. You need to go to your room, girl. That's what you go to your room. You don't get too big for your britches.
I remember we were at Hank Reynolds Church down in South Carolina, and you were ministering to somebody, and you told the girl, because you often said this, I'm in your house, and then
I can see things in your house.
But you told us I'm in your mouth. And Hank, who was the pastor, he said, "Get out of there, man! Get out of
there!" Oh boy, we used to have some time down there with Hank. And what I was in there seeing, I could see in the back of their mouth whether they had teeth removed or a
he said, "Get out of there! Get out of there!"
And as I began to understand one thing. We are already one with each other. But the key to this thing is remembering that from the planet you came from, these abilities that Apostle Paul talked about in 1 Corinthians 12 called gifts, on the other side, they are not gifts, they are built-in abilities.
And they only work when you've gotten yourself off your hands.
On this side.
And that's what we learned from a lot of the faith healers.
Yeah.
Those who were ministering and seeing different kinds of physical material miracles. They didn't have perfect lives, but they knew how to hit the switch.
They did. We saw
themselves off their hands. So what they knew how to do was jump into what you guys did this morning, get themselves out of the picture. And then being what you are automatically causes a field of miracles. So a field of miracles takes place when you're being what you are. You're absolutely the presence. You're absolutely the presence of God.
Some of the preachers used to tell us, you don't want to get over into the spirit too much. You start seeing things, and if you get over there in the Bible and the spirit too much, the Bible calls you to lose your mind.
All those suspicions, all of those, superstitions.
When I found out a word, EGO,
not the acronym edging God out.
No, not that.
Not that.
We found out that you could now go to every hospital and empty every bed and any condition that's going on in those rooms. You can go in that room and remove it, and the hospital will have to shut down because all the patients would be gone. But he said to me and showed this, if you would do that, if it is allowed for you to do that, how are you going to deal with the cameras, the television announcers, the news? How are you going to deal with all the publicity that's going to come up? I found out it's there. We are it. It's there. And then there's some of us who wake up enlightenment said, I don't need that. We don't need that. That might be for you, but it is not always the destiny of every other person that's enlightened. Look, when Superman in the metaphor was on Krypton, everybody on Krypton could fly, and everybody else on Krypton could do special things that we call here miracles. In the spirit world, I found out my brother, him crossing over, and you heard me tell before, some of you tell this, he did not know anything about what the world called telepathy or mind reading, or what we call it, the occult. Jesus did. You go in the book and you'll find out where it said he knew what they reasoned in their heads and heart. He knew their thoughts. It tells you there that when they said certain things, he perceived what their reactions is going to be. Now, in the church, they tell us that's the demons and Satan. In Christ, if you go all the way into it, you have to go through every dimension that and condition that you believe that these things were false. You'll have to be willing to give that up to venture. One of the most important things I found out about operating in these areas was eternal love, eternal forgiveness. That's it. I want you to use my power. This is what he said. I want you to use my abilities that comes through identity and getting your memory back.
I got a story to tell you. That's the ice in the bucket in there. I read this morning out of one of Dr. Hawkins' books called Letting Go. He mentioned that there was, he was a psychiatrist and taught, and he had the enlightening experience, and he eventually ended up being a spiritual teacher, a sage. But anyway, he was saying that during his practice, he ran into this lady who was so full of fear. She was afraid of everything. She was so full of fear. She was afraid of germs. She wore gloves. She wore white because she thought the dye in the clothes was going to affect her.
We ran across somebody like that.
She had all of these major fears. She had medicines that she had to take, but she was afraid to swallow the pills, but she thought she was going to choke. And I mean, it's all kinds of major fears, and I'm just barely touching the surface, scratching the surface with what he said she was dealing with. She was afraid to go out of her house, but she was afraid not to go out of her house because if she didn't, she knew she was going to go insane. Then she was afraid she was going insane. Then she was afraid for her family to find out she was going to a psychiatrist because she didn't want them to think she was insane. There was a whole lot of things that she was dealing with that were just fear-based. And he said he realized after working with her that there was nothing he could do to help her. Absolutely nothing could he do to help her. And so he said all he knew he could do for her was to love her. So what he started doing was simply sending out love energy to her. Every time he thought of her, he sent love energy to her. He didn't even allow his mind to think the negative things about her that she was experiencing. He simply loved her. And he said, as he did that over a course of time, most of the fears started dropping away immediately. And then he said, eventually, all of them fell away just because he decided to just be love to her. And that came from him walking and being present. Not so much trying to heal her, but walking and being present and being love to her. And that love healed her.
There you go.
That love
spontaneous.
And he became the presence of love. And so love heals everything. But he
Okay.
became the presence of love by giving up, letting go. I can't help her. As a human being, I can't help her. But he decided to leave being a human being and just be love.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Now, I wanted to see what Snet's talking about. Hey, my darling from Denmark, she says, yes, the most powerful energy healing is when I get out of the way and let the whole me, oneness, divinity, flow through me. It's so beautiful, but like to do it. When people ask and respect people, you respect people's no. We are all on different paths.
Okay.
And then she mentioned this. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
go ahead.
She said, true, seeing the light and soul, insist in seeing the love is the way.
Okay. I've run across people sometime in the restaurant, and I want to get paid for their meal, and I know that if I approach them at the table, their pride, their ego would say, "You don't have to do that. I don't need that."
And that goes back to the image, the self-image.
Yeah.
If you can't receive from someone like that, that means you have this self-image that you are not needy.
Yeah.
And if someone wants to do something for you, then all of a sudden you think that they think you're needy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's coming against their wanting to do something good for you. It's coming against your trying to have a positive self-image.
That's right. That's right.
So it's not always good to try to build an image.
Now, I found a way that I could do this and not let them have an ounce of interference with this.
Mm-hmm.
I would go to the cash register and tell
Mm-hmm.
the cashier, whoever it is there, that man sitting behind me, I don't turn my head and look at him. He's got on certain clothes and all that. And I said, take out enough to pay for his meal. Ain't a thing he can do about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you really want to work like Jesus did based on the book and based on what has happened to you in your experience, you don't talk about it in public. You don't mess with it, because the deeper you go into waking up, the less you'll talk about it, and the more you'll operate in first person.
Exactly. You'll simply be and not be so concerned with doing.
And then too, you don't have to come back and thank the Lord and praise God and all that.
Well, what you just mentioned about how do you do that? You do it keeping it secret. The scriptures talk about that, not letting your right hand know what your left hand's doing. Yeah.
But there were classes that we went to, and there are some of them still going on now that can assist you. But here's what I did. I know from watching the evangelicals on stage and some of the others, I found out and you heard me talk about the 5 gates. And I found out how they work, import and export of information. Now, I'm saying these things to you. I'm not trying to get you in trouble, but some of you hearing this already know this. And some of you knew it before you got enlightened and you stopped. Well, you really didn't stop the real you, but who you thought it was that needed to stop was your false self. You see, you don't have to go from door to door and ask people, can you witness to them? And you have your Bible sticking out in front of you like a sore thumb to tell them you are a certain religion, and would you mind us coming in or me coming in and talk to you about the Bible? We used to do that. Well, nowadays people ain't gonna. It's touchy out there now. But here's my point. I saw a lot of evangelists who were falsely accused of practicing faith healing, practicing doctor and medicine. And they felt like God wanted them to be public with this stuff. And a lot of them in my day got in trouble. A lot of them had to go to court and was charged with different kinds of charges against them. Wisdom would show you how to get somebody help. I look and I see people in the drugstore have one leg longer than the other. Their shoulders is up on one side and all that. I've seen a lot of that. And I sometimes I'll be standing beside them while both of us looking at things on the shelf. But here's the most mystical thing is this. I could still pray or bring comfort to them by saying, I ain't found what I'm looking for yet. Do you see such and such a thing over there on your side? They might say yes, it might not. Don't let their attitude make you have a bad one. You say, well, good morning. Good to see you. That's it. You should be in and have I don't know how you would say this in a decent way. You should be aware enough and settled in your identity of being oneness with God that you don't have to tell anybody about the mystery of how you do these things. You don't have to tell anybody. So people come by and say to us, boy, y'all rich. You got plenty of money. I said, well, thank you. I could say to them, no, it ain't like that. But anyway, my point is that if you go far enough into your middle path experience, you'll be able to find the mystery of what it is that's been blocking you and others from the full manifestation of the Christ consciousness. Let me say it like this. Memory of who you were, the recall is built into your spirit body. And once you understand how this works, you will actually see the miraculous take place without you saying one word. Pass by somebody. It is absolutely amazing when you see the non-doing self doing things that you didn't have anything to do with in your doing self.
Okay.
Alexandra.
Sonette says, I noticed that transformation too. No need to flag, but be open when people approach you. It's very surprising who knocks on the open door. Let's see. Hello, Elaine. I'm glad you're here. She says, so conditioned from a child to keep a certain self-image. I've lived this way for so many years. I felt it was so hard to change. Now I realize that the important thing is not so much the immediate change, but be able to see it right away, meaning I recognize the feeling now and my behavior, which is the change. I wanted to say this too, Elaine. I'm glad you mentioned that. What Pastor's talking about is coming to a place of full potential in your seeing and in your knowing. Some of us come to that place and we see phenomenal miracles. Some of us come to that place and we experience absolute peace. And when we walk around people, they feel the same peace. Some of us come to that potential and we come into a place of absolute happiness and bliss. And when people get in our presence, that's what they feel and it helps them. So there are so many ways to help people. But I wanted to say this too, the things that we mentioned about the self-concept, the image, the having positive self-esteem, all of those things. When we do that, we are still trying to perform.
Mm-hmm.
And the performance is where the mind comes in because it has to have a positive image. It has to have a positive opinion of who it thinks it is. But in actuality, when we walk in our innocence, and I wanted to mention, when we talk about babies a lot, that when they come into this world, they're in a state of innocence. They're not judging if somebody looks at that baby and says it's ugly, that baby could care less because it doesn't have the capacity to judge a thought at that point. So it doesn't care if someone thinks it's ugly. It's not that it doesn't care. It's not even conscious of what it looks like. It's not even conscious of what how it smells. It's not conscious of it's not self-conscious. We, on the other hand, have lived in self-consciousness. That's what we've lived in. But innocence is no consciousness of contamination, no self-judgment, or I should say no opinion about myself, no sentence passed on myself. I'm aware and simply aware, not aware of being free or bound, just being aware. And I'm free from the dictates and the expectations of what my mind thinks I ought to be. And I hope that makes sense to you, because I lived with this man for 54 years. We've been together for 56 practically. He does things that I probably would not do in the area of his full potential as a mystic, as a mystical prophet. The temperament's different. The conditioning is different. So when presence is there as him, it's totally different than presence here as me. So we're not trying to clone. You shouldn't feel like I don't do what somebody else does. I'm not there yet. That's the measuring stick. So I want to encourage you guys to put down the measuring stick. Just put it down. Is God really trying to find out? Is God really measuring you that much? Is God really watching you to see if you're doing everything perfectly? Is God doing that? And I think that what has happened, we've fallen into the belief that we have to be perfect in order for God to respond to us, in order for us to for those of us who are Christian minded, for us to even get into heaven. All of those things are beliefs that have limited us and caused us suffering.
Yeah. When Jesus was walking on water, I discovered a lot of interesting things about the mystery behind how he did that.
Mm-hmm.
And he's Peter wanted to go out the way it was. If it is you bid me come, something like that.
Yeah.
And as long as Peter had his eyes on Jesus, he could do what he did.
And I used to say that too, but as long as Peter had his eyes off of the situation,
there you go.
He was able to walk.
Right.
Yeah.
But immediately when that switch dropped and Peter became a limited identity again, born of his mother, birth certificate, so many years I'd lived. I mean, the example goes on and on.
Yeah, yeah.
When he was watching Jesus on that water, in order for Peter to do what Jesus did at that moment, here you go, he had to look at the picture and remove the frame. In other words, he had to be willing somehow or another to be Jesus looking and walking the water.
That's what I was about to say. Is that
go ahead?
When in looking at Jesus being the man, the example of a man who has reached full enlightenment,
author and finisher,
full potential. He looked at Jesus. He looked into the mirror of what he was supposed to be and what he is. And as long as he saw himself in that mirror, Jesus was the mirror.
In the classes we used to have, I did not tell them what I'm telling you now, because I thought at the moment that I had all of it together, and I didn't, but yet I was still doing some of these things, or the Lord was doing. And then this thing about false humility, I had to deal with that. People come up to us and say, Reverend Sawyer, God healed me. I thank you for laying hands on me. I said, false humility would say, I had nothing to do with it.
Oh,
yes, you
look.
You got
it that way, and I got it this way.
Okay.
Whenever you would do something like that and people would get healed or blessed or whatever, a lot of them will come to me and say, "Oh, you live with him. It must be something. It must be wonderful." I said, "Well,
yeah, that's right.
well, he's very human.
That bucket got a hole
Very
in it.
human, very human, very earthy.
Yeah.
So it's not that you don't walk in the cloud
No,
in the sense of your head in the clouds. You don't live there.
And I'm
You
not
don't.
trying to pat myself on the back for
No,
not
but
doing
you really don't live there. As mystical as you are, you don't live there.
No.
You are very, very grounded.
I'm gonna be honest
Very
with you.
grounded.
I have
More
no
than me, I
taste.
think. More grounded than I am.
Well, you might
I
say.
think my head is in the clouds more than yours is.
I have no taste at this point for getting with some people to teach them these things that we're talking about in detail. And I want to say this to you: when you start teaching, finding out about how it works, you will eventually attract or repel certain people away. That must be given up. The big crowds or the no crowds or one person. But here's the most important thing I would say to you. If you ever see Jesus, the Christ, beyond just being in you, beyond all the sayings you could say that an enlightened person could say, whether on YouTube or whether on television, some of the top line sages can talk to you. I could call different names of all of them. The most important thing is that when you personally can lay the book down and find the zipper, metaphorically speaking, zip it down in front of your solar plex area and see the truth beyond the physical, that you and Christ the Lord, without the ego, are actually the same being.
One and the same, yes.
One and that's one pill you have to swallow.
Yeah, and I was about to say, when you tell them that they got to see Jesus, the only way you're going to see Jesus, unless Jesus reveals himself in outside of you, the only way you're going to see Jesus is see it right here as yourself. That is the only way. When you said zip, unzip, and what's in you is that. When you discover that truth that you are, that truth that you are, Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." And you are the truth. When you unzip and open up, you are the truth. You're the way, and you're the life.
And that zipper has to be all the way down to the depths of the place inside of you where it is called the secret place.
And that happens only when you let go of trying to perform. Only when you let go of trying to be something that you would wish to be, something you would love to be. Only when you let go of that will you be that. And you can work on your self-improvement and self-empowerment. You can work on all of that. But with the background knowing that there is a you that is already everything you're trying to become.
I didn't know that on the day that I met this young lady that sat beside me and we got married, I remember going back in the place where I was in the city in town where I was raised, my aunt and uncle was living. She was sick with cancer. I went in there in that bedroom. I didn't have very many clothes, but what I had, I gathered it up in my arms and I went out to my car and got in it. I didn't know that I was walking away from the past, even though the memories are there.
And that's when we got married.
That was after we got married.
After we got married.
I went home.
You went to your house.
Yeah. And I got all the, didn't have very many of them because we were staying upstairs at your mom and dad's house. There were times when I said I wanted to get out of that environment because I just had enough of it. I did. I went there and got it, my clothes. I knew then that the other times that when I was smaller, I would leave and go upstairs and stay with my mom, but I ended up going back. But what happened to me was so radical that when I got those clothes and put them in the car and left, I knew I was cutting an umbilical cord
Mm-hmm.
of
Mm-hmm.
something that I really wanted to get away from.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to stay in that
Yeah.
and receive the Christ consciousness before I could get out of it. The Lord Himself, in my form, walked away from it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now I am here. Now, I could say I'm free from it, or I could say I'm not free from it based on this. I still have the residual memories of what I did, what I've raised up. I have. I'm talking about the
Of
details of,
course, and they won't go away.
and I've been asking Spirit to remove the memories from me.
But that will only happen with Alzheimer's,
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
and you don't want that.
No, but here's my point is this: the supernatural power of God was me seeing Jesus and studying Him with my eternal heart.
Mm-hmm.
Hundreds of pieces of information I could give you as we talk about how this thing worked in waking up from the sleep of no abilities. And then, too, you have to understand, I came through a pipeline where insecurity was the main thing. I wanted to do, and I still have that, what she can do on this computer and what some of you guys can do on certain jobs. But instead, I went after Jesus, and He became my wooby. He became my center. And from there, I saw a compassionate being. I mean, with tears and strong travailing, I saw Christ the Lord. But I didn't know that Him being in me was like pouring water in a glass. When the water hit the glass, the water becomes the glass. I didn't know Him being in us causes Him or our waking up to see that He is us, regardless of how much you fight against saying you Him. You cannot renege Him from being you.
Yeah.
I saw it.
Yeah.
I saw Jesus in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, folks, we've been here for an hour, and
Don't
I
seem like it.
hate to say it, but it's time to go. It's time to go. And besides, we've got some thundering and lightning getting ready to
Yeah,
take
it
place
is.
over
Just thunder
here.
and lightning.
So we're going to take off here, but I want to encourage you to give. And when you do, I want you to give out of your abundance. Express your abundance by giving. Type that in.
Please do.
Type that
Please
in.
do.
I express my abundance by giving. Type that in. Type it in there, because it's true. When you do that, you're expressing your abundance.
Thank you
And
so
you're
much.
causing a flow to happen in your life. And because money is a currency, it has to flow. So keep the flow going. Express your abundance by giving. And you can do that by texting CLC Greensboro to 73256, or you can use paypal.me/cornerstone35, or you can mail it to P.O. Box 36259, Greensboro, North Carolina, 27416. And if you don't want to do that, you can go to the website and just hit the donate button. That's the way I like to do it. I just go to the website and hit the donate button. And I donate to Cornerstone because this is still my pastor.
Okay.
This is still my pastor. So I donate to him. I donate to the church. And if you want to give to Pastor and myself personally, you can do that by going to Cash App and putting in $A Sawyer C. Or you can use paypal.me/ACE Sawyer 72. And by the way, we've been getting some steadily getting new subscribers on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And by the way, I want to ask you guys, I noticed since Facebook has changed some things, the parameters and things on our pages, and I cannot manage my page the way I would like to, the way I used to do. And I don't see my videos on there that we do. All of them are not listed there. Have any of you noticed that? And if you have, go to the YouTube channel where all of our videos are still listed there. I think for whatever reason, all of our videos are not showing up on our Facebook page, on the Cornerstone Facebook page. But anyway, let me know if you've seen that happen, if you've experienced that. I'd like to know. I may have to contact them, let them know what's happening. But anyway, thank you guys for tuning
Thank
in
you
to
so
us
much.
today. We'll be back. We'll be back Tuesday at 7, Lord willing, and nothing happens to cause us not to be.
Lord willing, the creek don't rise.
Yeah, and he's getting ready for a colonoscopy tomorrow, so I don't have to cook today. Isn't that something?
Yeah, I gotta find something to eat. Well,
You can't eat today. All you can have is clear liquids
all day.
all day. Yeah.
That's a sin. It's a real sin.
It is. I hear thunder. I got to get off here.
Okay, we'll see you guys next time. Okay.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.